Diane Carter had spent 30 years building her name. 30 years of sacrifice, of perfecting her craft, of turning Diane Luxe Designs into a brand that symbolized elegance, artistry, and prestige. And now, she was being told it was worthless. It started gradually, clients quietly shifting to something new. Then the headlines: AI-designed fashion, the end of traditional couture. Luxury at the speed of algorithms, why handmade is too slow. The real blow came when she saw the quote from Ethan Lang, CEO of Novamode, the AI-driven fashion startup that had taken the industry by storm. Designers over 50 are outdated. AI is the new artist. Diane felt her stomach drop. Her sales had plummeted by 40% in just 3 months. Her once loyal customers, A-list celebrities, socialites, high-end boutiques, were now praising Novamode for its speed, affordability, and innovative approach. And the investors? They weren't patient. If you don't evolve, Diane, you'll be out of business within a year. You need AI. It's the future. Adapt or be left behind. She stared at them across the boardroom table. These were the same people who had once called her a genius, a visionary. Now they saw her as an obstacle, a relic of the past. Diane wanted to fight back. She wanted to scream that they were wrong. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't sure if they were. Diane left the boardroom in a daze, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she made her way back to her studio. She had always believed that luxury was timeless, that craftsmanship, artistry, and attention to detail could never be replaced by speed and automation. But the world was changing, and for the first time she felt like she didn't belong in it anymore. As she stepped into her once bustling studio, she was struck by the silence. The hum of sewing machines, gone. The chatter of designers and tailors, gone. The space felt empty. Half of her team had already left. Some were poached by Novamode, drawn in by higher salaries, shorter hours, and the promise of working with the future of fashion. And then there were the others, the ones who stayed, the ones who looked at her with fear in their eyes. Are we going to be okay, Diane? She didn't have an answer, because deep down she was wondering the same thing. Her phone buzzed in her hand. It was a notification from Novamode's latest campaign. She tapped the link and her breath caught in her throat. A video played, sleek, modern, powerful. Meet the future of luxury fashion designed by AI, perfected by algorithms, faster, smarter, better. The camera panned across a collection of stunning high-fashion pieces, flawless in execution, delivered within 24 hours of ordering. And then Ethan Lang's voice: "You deserve the best. And with AI, the best is no longer limited by human hands." Diane's heart pounded, not out of anger, out of fear, because for the first time she wondered if he was right. Diane shut off her phone and placed it face down, on her desk. Her hands trembled. Not from rage, not yet. From something she had never allowed herself to feel before: doubt. Was she fighting a battle she had already lost? She had spent her entire life believing that artistry mattered more than efficiency, that luxury was about legacy, not just production speed. But what if she was wrong? What if? She really was obsolete. A knock at the door startled her. She looked up to see Rachel, her lead designer. The young woman hesitated before stepping inside, clutching an envelope. Diane's stomach twisted. She already knew what it was: a resignation letter. Rachel looked uncomfortable, shifting her weight from foot to foot. "Diane, I'm so sorry. This is the hardest decision I've ever made." Diane swallowed hard. Rachel had been with her for 10 years. She had started as an intern, learning the craft, absorbing everything Diane had taught her. She had once said, "Diane, I don't want to design for machines. I want to design like you." But now she was leaving. And Diane already knew where she was going: Novamode, to Ethan. Rachel continued, her voice hesitant. "They're offering me 3 times my salary, and," she looked down, "they want me to help integrate AI into their designs." Diane exhaled slowly, keeping her face unreadable. "Do you believe AI can replace what we do, Rachel?" A pause. Rachel didn't answer right away. Then, finally, she sighed. "I don't know, but I can't afford to wait and find out." She placed the envelope on the desk. Diane stared at it, her throat tightening. Rachel hesitated for a moment, as if waiting for Diane to say something, to fight for her, to give her a reason to stay. But Diane just nodded, picking up the letter with steady hands. She wouldn't beg, she wouldn't plead. She had never been that kind of woman. Rachel gave her a small, regretful smile. Then, she turned and walked out the door. Diane sat motionless, listening to the sound of her footsteps fading down the hall. And just like that, she was gone. Diane stared at the letter for a long time. Then, without a word, she crumpled it into a tight ball and threw it into the trash. Her studio was getting emptier by the day. Her company was slipping through her fingers, and no one thought she could stop it. She rose from her chair, her movements slow, controlled. Then, she walked to the window, staring out at the city below. Her reflection looked tired, worn, like someone who had already lost. Her fingers curled into fists. Was this it? Was she really going to let Ethan Lang and his algorithms erase her? Her breath was shallow, her heart pounded, and in that moment, something inside her snapped. No, she had built this company, with her hands, her vision, her years of experience, and she would be damned if she let a machine take that away from her. If Nova Mode wanted a war, they were about to get one. Diane didn't sleep that night. She sat in her darkened studio, the only light coming from the faint glow of the city, outside. She had spent decades crafting beauty with her hands, stitching, draping, sculpting fabric into something more than just clothing. And now, people like Ethan Lang were telling the world that human hands weren't needed anymore. She had built a company that stood for luxury, artistry, craftsmanship, and now they wanted her to surrender, to integrate AI, to let the algorithms take over, or walk away entirely. Diane gritted her teeth. If that was her only choice, then she would burn it all down before she let that happen. She pulled out a fresh notebook and started scribbling. She wouldn't compete on speed. She wouldn't compete on price. She would compete on what AI could never replicate. Human touch, storytelling, legacy. Her hand moved quickly, ideas pouring onto the page. A complete rebrand, a revolution. She circled 3 words at the top of the page. Anti-algorithm luxury. That was her answer. She wouldn't fight AI by trying to be faster. She would fight AI by proving why fast wasn't better. She flipped to a new page and started writing a manifesto. Luxury isn't mass-produced. Luxury isn't rushed. Luxury isn't disposable. Luxury is human. Her mind raced. Limited edition, numbered pieces, hand-signed, custom-crafted garments, a bespoke experience that no algorithm could mimic. She wasn't selling fashion, she was selling art. And if the world couldn't see the difference, then they weren't her clients. Diane exhaled sharply, her pulse pounding in her ears. She had spent the last 6 months playing defense. Now? She was going to attack. She reached for her phone and pulled up social media. She typed quickly, her fingers moving with purpose. You have a choice. AI-generated fast fashion or handcrafted, human-made art. The world is changing, but real luxury isn't instant. Real art isn't automated, and real designers are not obsolete. She hit post. Then, she did something no one expected. She tagged Ethan Lang, and beneath it she wrote just 3 words. Let's talk, Ethan. Within minutes, notifications flooded in. Comments, shares, mentions. And then, a response. Ethan Lang had replied, gladly. The battle had just begun. The response was immediate. Within hours, Diane's post had exploded across social media. Fashion critics, luxury consumers, and even industry insiders were divided. Some dismissed her. She's desperate. Fighting against progress never works. AI is the future. She's just bitter because she can't keep up. But others, the ones who truly understood craftsmanship, rallied behind her. Fast fashion is disposable. Handmade is forever. We don't want algorithms, we want ART. Then the media caught on. Major fashion publications started covering the controversy. Diane Carter versus AI, the battle for luxury fashion begins. The hashtag anti-algorithm luxury began trending. But the real shock came later that evening, when Ethan Lang went on live television. Dressed in a sleek, AI-designed suit, he sat across from a top news anchor, looking calm, confident, completely unfazed. And then he spoke. Diane Carter is a legend, but she's clinging to the past. The fashion industry is evolving, and AI is not the enemy, it's the future. Luxury is about innovation, not nostalgia. Then came the real bombshell. He leaned forward, his blue eyes locked on the camera. Diane says real designers aren't obsolete? Let's put that to the test. The screen cut to bold white text on a black background, live debate, Diane Carter versus Ethan Lang. Can AI replace true creativity? The audience gasped. Diane's phone exploded with notifications. The challenge had been set. And now, the entire world would be watching. Diane sat frozen in her studio, staring at the screen. She wasn't just fighting for her company anymore. She was fighting for every designer, every artist, every craftsman who had ever been told that a machine could do their job better. Her heart pounded. She had spent the last 30 years proving her worth in this industry. Now she had one night to prepare to do it all over again. This wasn't just about her survival anymore. This was war. The night before the debate, Diane sat alone in her dimly lit studio, surrounded by the essence of her life's work. Bolts of silk, velvet, and hand-woven brocade lined the walls. Mannequins draped in unfinished gowns stood like silent witnesses to her battle. She ran her fingers over an embroidered jacket she had designed decades ago, one that had taken weeks to craft by hand. Would AI ever understand why she chose that stitch? That fabric? Could a machine feel the weight of a garment in its hands and know when it was perfect? Or would it just follow a formula? Diane let out a slow breath, centering herself. Tomorrow she wouldn't just be defending her company. She would be defending art itself. A knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. It was Alex, her son. She hadn't seen him in weeks, not since their last argument. He stepped inside hesitantly. "Hey, Mom." Diane crossed her arms. "Surprised to see you here." Alex shifted uncomfortably. "I saw the announcement, the debate." He hesitated. "I needed to come." Diane studied him, her son, the AI engineer, the one who had told her to adapt or be left behind, the one who had believed in the technology that was threatening to erase her. She waited. Alex cleared his throat. "Look, I know we don't see eye to eye on this, but I also know you." His voice softened. "You're not going to let them win easily, are you?" Diane smirked. "Not a chance." A small smile tugged at Alex's lips. "Then you might want to hear what I have to say." Diane raised a brow. Alex stepped forward. "I work with AI every day. I know what it can and can't do." He reached for the embroidered jacket, brushing a thumb over the detailed stitching. "AI can replicate this, but it can't replace it." Diane's breath caught. Alex met her gaze. "You don't need to fight against AI, Mom. You just need to remind people why it will never be enough." Silence hung between them. Then, slowly, Diane nodded. For the first time in months, she felt something other than fear. She felt ready. The debate hall was packed. The air buzzed with anticipation as hundreds of fashion executives, designers, journalists, and industry leaders filled the auditorium. The entire event was being live-streamed worldwide. On one side of the stage stood Ethan Lang, dressed in a sleek, AI-generated suit that had been designed and manufactured in less than an hour. His posture was relaxed, his confidence effortless. On the other side, Diane Carter. She stood tall in a custom-made black gown from her own collection, hand-sewn, intricate, impossible for an algorithm to replicate. She wasn't here to chase trends. She was here to prove that true artistry wasn't dictated by speed. The moderator took center stage, his voice booming over the microphone. "Tonight, we explore a question that could change the future of fashion. Can artificial intelligence replace human designers?" The crowd murmured, eager for the battle to begin. The moderator turned to Ethan first. "Ethan, your company, Nova Mode, has been at the forefront of AI-driven fashion. Why do you believe AI is the future?" Ethan flashed a polished smile. "Because it's efficient. AI can analyze trends in seconds, generate custom designs in minutes, and manufacture garments in hours. It eliminates waste. It eliminates delays. It eliminates error." He gestured toward Diane. "Luxury has always been about exclusivity. AI makes it accessible." The audience applauded. Diane didn't react. She simply folded her hands on the table and waited. The moderator turned to her. "Diane, your response?" She let the silence linger before she spoke. "Ethan, you're right. A hush fell over the room. Ethan blinked. Excuse me? Diane nodded. AI is efficient. It is fast. It is cost-effective. Then she tilted her head. But tell me, since when has fast ever meant better? A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. Diane turned toward the audience, letting her voice carry through the auditorium. How many of you have ever owned something handcrafted? A jacket, a watch, a dress, something made just for you? Hands slowly went up. And how many of you still have it? How many of you treasure it, not because it was made quickly, but because it was made with intention? The hands stayed up. Diane's gaze sharpened as she turned back to Ethan. Your AI may be able to design fashion, but can it create meaning? Ethan opened his mouth, and for the first time that night he hesitated. The hesitation lasted only a second, but in a room full of industry leaders, journalists, and fashion elites, it was enough. Diane pushed forward. AI can generate patterns, it can follow formulas, but it cannot create meaning. It cannot feel inspiration. It cannot look at a piece of fabric and imagine a story. She reached beneath the table and pulled out a single dress. The fabric was exquisite hand-stitched embroidery, delicate beadwork, each detail intentional. Diane held it up. This was made by Maria Lopez, a seamstress who has been working with me for 25 years. Do you know what inspired this design? She turned to the audience, her voice steady. Her grandmother's garden in Mexico, the flowers she used to water as a child, the lace on her mother's wedding dress. The room was silent. Diane's gaze locked onto Ethan's. Tell me, Ethan, can your AI tell me why this pattern matters? Ethan leaned forward. It doesn't need to. A murmur rippled through the audience. Ethan's confidence returned. Because the world is moving forward. Your nostalgia is beautiful, Diane, but it's inefficient. AI doesn't need stories. It doesn't need memories. It needs only one thing, demand. His voice sharpened. People don't have time to wait months for a custom gown. They want it now. They want it personalized at the click of a button. And that's what AI delivers. A smattering of applause. Diane didn't flinch. She took a slow breath, her expression unreadable. Then she asked one simple question. What happens when everything is fast? Ethan blinked. What? Diane stood, holding the dress against the light. When everything is instant, when everything is generated, then what is luxury anymore? She walked to the edge of the stage, addressing the audience directly. Luxury was never meant to be mass-produced. It was never meant to be effortless. The very thing that makes something valuable is the fact that not everyone can have it. Her eyes swept over the crowd. If AI makes everything equally accessible, then nothing is exclusive, nothing is rare, and when nothing is rare, she let the word settle. Nothing is special. The room fell completely silent. Ethan shifted in his chair. For the first time, he didn't have an immediate response. Diane looked at him, then at the audience, and smiled. Because she knew the battle wasn't over. But tonight, she had won. The applause started slow, then it grew. It wasn't just polite clapping. People were cheering. Diane remained still, letting the moment sink in. Ethan sat across from her, his usual confidence faltering for the first time. The moderator leaned in, trying to restore order. Ethan, would you like to respond? Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time, he had no comeback. Because Diane hadn't just won the argument, she had shifted the conversation. She had reminded them what they had forgotten. Luxury wasn't about efficiency. It was about feeling, story, connection. The moderator turned back to Diane. Diane, final thoughts. She looked across the sea of faces. She saw young designers, afraid that their craft was becoming irrelevant. She saw veteran artisans, wondering if their skills still mattered. She saw clients, people who had once valued the artistry of fashion, but had been told that fast was better. She saw herself. Diane exhaled, then spoke. Technology has its place, but progress isn't about choosing between AI and human creativity. She turned to Ethan. It's about knowing where technology belongs and where it doesn't. The room erupted. Ethan didn't argue. He didn't push back. Because deep down, even he knew, She was right. The morning after a shift in the industry, Diane woke up to millions of views on the debate livestream. The fashion world was buzzing. News outlets ran headlines like, "Diane Carter redefines luxury, fast doesn't mean better. AI in fashion, innovation or imitation." The debate that shook the industry, and most importantly, clients returned. Orders flooded into Diane Luxe Designs, not just from longtime customers, but from people who had never heard of her before. They wanted something real, and they knew AI couldn't give them that. Diane stood in her studio, watching her artisans at work. The hum of sewing machines filled the air again. She had been told she was too old, that her time was over, that technology had won. But here she was, stronger than ever. Because no matter how advanced AI became, it could never replace the heart, the soul, and the human touch behind every stitch. Diane had proven that. And now? The world finally understood. The end. Diane's story is proof that experience, passion, and human creativity will always matter. AI can generate designs, but it can't create meaning. It can't replace heart. It can't replace you. So let me ask you, do you think AI will take over fashion? Will artistry survive in a world obsessed with speed? Comment below. Type second if you believe in handmade luxury. Type seventh if you think AI is the future of fashion. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to Sophia's Revenge Stories for more powerful stories of resilience, justice, and revenge.